Good afternoon, children. I am Mamtar Sankolli. I am teaching history for the class 8th. Today we are going to begin the first chapter in the history, how, when and where. Right? History is all about the past, you all know it. Let us now see how important are dates. Right? There was a time when historians were fascinated with the dates. Yes. How, when and where. The title itself tell you it is about the dates. It is about the time. It is about the period. Right. There was a time when historians were fascinated with dates. Means they wanted to know what had happened in those days. They were very much particular about the dates. There were heated debates about the dates on which the rulers were crowned or battles were fought. Yes, we know these dates are very important. As per the information of the historians, the kings were very particular about the dates when they were crowned and when they had fought the battles, because these two periods where the king should be proud of himself or proud of herself. In the common sense notion, history was synonymous with the dates. You may have heard people say, I find history boring because it is all about memorizing the dates. In such a concept, is such a conception true? Yes, if you ask generally the arts student what is the difficulty, they tell us that we have to memorize a lot of dates. We have to keep lot of dates in our mind. When which ruler has ruled, at what period he was ruling this kingdom. You can see it is a very common thing. Around 100 to 150 dates they have to keep in mind, and if you have taken history as your major, right, because it is all about the dates. History is certainly about changes that occur over time. It is about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time. We talk of before or after. Yes, this is very common, and this is the thing which is happening. Whenever we are talking something, we talk about the before thing or we talk about the after thing. Both are very much important in our life. What happened in the past and what happened in the future, that is most important. If you listen to a story, if you listen to the middle, if you are starting, if mother has started a story, you tell fast, make it fast. I want to know what happened again, what happened after this, what happened after that. When you are watching a serial, you are very curious. Tomorrow's what will be the episode? Mundina Sanchikeli. When they show, you are very eager to see it. Like that, the historians also were eager. The kings were also eager to know what had happened in the after that. Living in the world, we do not always ask historical questions about what we see around us. We take things for granted, as if we see as always been in the moments of wonder. When we are curious and we ask questions that actually are historical. See here, watching someone sip a cup of tea, a roadside tea stall, you may wonder when did people began to drink on tea or coffee. Looking out of the window of a train, you may ask yourself, you were always built, and how did people travel longer distance before the age of railways? Yes. When you drink tea, when you take a sip of coffee and all that time, you will think how were people living in the olden days, how they were cooking the food, what dresses they were wearing. When you travel in the far distances, when you are traveling becomes 12 hours, 14 hours, we don't go by bus, we travel in the trains. So that time you think by walking they have traveled this long distance, how they were traveling. So these are the questions which you were getting. Now you hear about the newspapers, they are being printed. You get the news of all the India, all over the world, what is happening. But in olden days there were no newspapers. And how did people come to know what was happening in the other states, other kingdoms? All such historical questions refer us back to notions of time, but time does not have to be always precisely dated in terms of a particular year or month. Sometimes it is actually incorrect to fix a precise date to processes that happen over a period of time. So over a period of time, the time changes, people are changing by year, month by month, they are changing. We cannot say that this is going to happen in the next moment or in this year, this month. We cannot tell it because people goes on changing from year to year, from month to month, from week to week, they are changing. In India, I did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed a taste for it over time. There can be no one clear date for a process such as this. Yes, there is no clear date that when Indians started drinking the tea, when Indians started drinking the coffee. There is no clear date about it. There can be no clear date for a person such like this. Similarly, we cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established or the national movement started. Yes, here we cannot say that exactly, we cannot give the date when the British rule started in India, or we cannot give the exact date for the national movements which started in India, or the changes took place within the country and society. All these things happened over a stretch of time. We can only refer to a span of time, an approximately period over which a particular changes became visible. Right? We can tell some fixed period of time where we saw these changes happening, where people actually started the national movement, where actually the British rule started. So when changes took place at that time, we have considered all these things, but we cannot tell a particular date for this. As you have seen in the history textbooks of the past 2 years, historians now write a host of other issues, other questions. They look at how people earned their livelihood, what they produced and ate, how cities developed and markets came up, how kingdoms were formed and new ideas spread, and how cultures and society had changed. Yes, this is very important. So we have to know that how the culture was changing. In the olden days, what people were eating in order to survive, how they have led their lifestyle, how was their livelihood, all these questions the historians are very eager to know. How they have led their life in a very harsh weathers. For example, there was a drought, there were floods in those days. How they have come up from those difficulties, how they were saving themselves from those difficulties. Historians are very eager to know. Which dates? Let us see. By what criteria do we choose a set of dates as important? Now, what is the criteria? So, what is the condition for which we have to select or which we have to choose that this date is very, very important? So, what is the condition for that? Let us see. The dates we select, the dates around which we compose our story of the past are important on their own. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. Yes, we have to know the past and we have to know what is that the dates around which we compose the story of the past are not important. We cannot build a story, we cannot write a story, but we have to focus on the important events which had really taken place. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. If our focus of study changes, we begin to look at a new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. So you can see here we will search the dates and they become the significant. Important issues are there, important things are there that we have to concentrate. Consider an example. In the histories written by the British historians in India, the rule of each governor general was important. These histories began with the rule of the first Governor General Warren Hastings, separate, and ended with the last Viceroy Lord Mountbatten. So you have seen that there were different governors who had ruled the India, but we remember the first governor and the last governor who gave us the independence. The first governor was Warren Hastings, who ruled the India, and it was the last viceroy or the governor general who was Lord Mountbatten. He gave the independence to India. So with these two persons we found it very important persons, and we try to know about the things what they had done during their ruling periods. Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, Irwin. It was a seemingly never-ending succession of governor generals and viceroys. As you know, this English people, cunning people, British, we call them as cunning fox. You know, they came to India in a way, in a thinking that they have to do they acted like they are the merchants. They had come here to trade, but what they did, they started ruling the India by using the policy. It still today we remember it. We call it as the British policy, divide and rule. They divided the Indian kings and they started ruling the India. And you know what happens when there is a division? The king becomes weak, and they started capturing those kingdoms and started ruling in India. So we saw these so many different governor generals, and what happened? They started writing their own history. They had not written the history of our great kings, about great warriors. They have not written. Only we see the explanation, the exaggerations of the Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, Irwin. We see these viceroys' explanations more in our Indian history rather than our freedom fighters. There is no explanation about them. There is no life history about them. There are no biographies about them. There are no poems about them. There are no writings about them. What did these British rulers did? As soon as they entered the India, these viceroys, they started writing about their own history, about what they have conquered, how many kings they have, how many kings lost their kingdoms to the British. They started writing their history. It was seemingly never-ending succession of governor generals and viceroys. All the dates in these history books were linked to their personalities, to their activities, policies and achievements. As already I said you, when they started ruling in India, they saw that Indian history is completely stopped. Indian rulers, Indian great kings, there was no explanation about them. Only the explanation, only the exaggerations, only the achievements, you can say, only the political achievements, policies, activities, everything was about the British rulers, not about the Indian rulers. It was as if there was nothing outside their lives that was important for us to know. The chronology of their lives marked the different chapters of the history of British India. Yes, they have given very good name called British India because it was an British era. British were ruling us, and whatever the history had happened, they have told only the history of the British people, what they have done, what they were doing and what they will do in the future. It is only the history contains only about the British people, their life history, not about any Indian. When we write history or a story, we divide it into chapters. Why do we do this? Is it to give chapters some coherence? Is it to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be followed? Yes. Every story has a message. For example, the crow story. What is the message behind it? Right, it collects one stone and it makes the water come up. So when you are not giving up any challenge in your life, definitely you will have a success, right? So and that challenge, the collecting the stones was a challenge for the crow, but it did it, and at last it became successful in drinking the water. So this is how the things grow with, or how the things go with. So every story, every events was having some message to give to the people. In the histories that revolve around the life of British governor generals, the activities of Indians simply do not fit. They have no space. What then do we do? Clearly we need another format for our history. Yes, this is the thing. When British officials were there, they were not allowed a single Indian to write about the Indian kings or the Indian queens. They saw that our history is completely ruined and their history is exaggerated, their policies are exaggerated, their achievements are exaggerated. Let us see now how did we do, how do we periodize. Yes, very important. Now how do we periodize, because these people have not allowed to do it. Now what to do? In 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive of 3-volume work, A History of British India. In this he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim and British. You have seen all these people have ruled the India. Hindu were the originals who were born in India, who were living in India, who had the right to live in India and who were leading their life in India. But what happened? Muslims started conquering. They came to India, they conquered so many kingdoms and they started living with us. And after that, who came? British came. They ruled almost 200 years of India. This periodization came to be widely accepted. Can you think of any problem with this way of looking at Indian history? Why do we try and divide history into different periods? We do so in an attempt to capture the characteristics of a time, its central features as appears to us. So here we are going to divide the history according to the time, according to the certain features, according to the things which are important, according to the ideas about the past which are important. British rule, Mill felt, could civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manners, arts, institutions and laws in India. He thought that European manners, he wanted to introduce it in India. He wanted to introduce, he felt that there should be institutions regarding the arts. He thought that there should be laws made in India. In fact, he suggested the British should conquer all the territories in India to ensure the enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people, for India was not capable of progress without British help. So what is happening here? What is this Mill is thinking that in order to have the development of India, it is necessary that there should be European culture, there should be European institutions and there should be British laws made in India. So that what happens, British can give the culture, British are capable of making the Indian people more progressive and they can help the Indians to learn the European manners. They were thinking that Indians were not civilized. If you give the culture to them, they will become civilized. For that sake, British thought of ruling the India. In any case, in this idea of history, British rule represented all the forces of progress and civilization. The period before British rule was one of darkness. Can such a conception be accepted today? So Britishers is telling that we were ruling India because India is not civilized. Indians are not happy. If we rule India, Indians people will become happy, they will become more civilized, they will become more educated. Is this concept acceptable? Can we accept this? When we are independent as Indians, we will progress, or under the rule of British, we will progress. So this is the question. When we will progress? We will progress when we are as a Indians. If we are ruled by the Britishers, definitely we will not progress. But according to the Britishers, their concept was very different. They thought that if we rule India, we make Indians civilized, we make Indians more educated, we tell them how to live themselves very happily. In the British rule, they will get all the happiness. In any case, can we refer to any period of history as Hindu or Muslim? Did not a variety of faiths exist simultaneously in these periods? Why should we characterize an age only through the religion of rurals of the time? To do so, is it suggest that the lives and practices of others do not really matter? We should also remember that even rulers in ancient India did not all share the same faith. Yes, we can't say that according to the we cannot divide the dates according to the Hindu, according to the Muslim, or according to the Christian. On the basis of religion, we cannot divide it. We are unable to divide the periods on the basis of the religions, because what happened, the rurals of the time did not, all were living together. Hindu, Muslim, Christians, all were living together. So we cannot divide on the basis of the dates on the basis of the time, on the basis of the religion, or on the basis of the caste. Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. You can see that British made the classification and historians have divided it. Now Indian historians have divided it into ancient, medieval, and modern. This division too has its problems. It is a periodization that is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity: science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. We saw that there was a growth in the science, there was a growth in the democracy, there was growth in the reason, there was growth in the liberty, there was growth in the equality. Medieval was a term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. There was no modern society existing. Modern society was not there, but there was science was there, reason was there, democracy was there in the society. Can we uncritically accept this characterization of the modern period to describe the period of study? Let us see. As you will see in this book, under British rule, people did not have equality, freedom, or liberty, nor was the period of economic growth and progress. Here you can see that when we were ruled by the British people, there was no equality, there was no freedom, there was no liberty. We were not able to tell anything against the British government. If you say something, your head was chopped. Your head was chopped in the market. You were hanged in the market. So it was such a crucial period where one cannot raise his voice against the British government. So let us see what is colonial. In this book you will read about the way the British came to conquer the country and establish their rule, subjugating local Nawabs and Rajas. Subjugating means making them side. The British started ruling the kingdoms, ruling the particular places, particular cities, particular villages, particular towns. We will see how they established control over the economy and society, collected revenue to meet all their expenses, bought the goods they wanted at low prices, produced crops they needed for export, and you will understand the changes that came about as a consequence. Here you are seeing, as a result, British ruling in India, what happened? There were a lot of consequences. There were a lot of problems which was happening. One is they made us to grow the crops grow the things which they wanted to export to the other countries. They made us to produce the crops which they were needed to export for the other countries. They collected heavy revenues from our farmers. They were collecting heavy revenues for the farmers. They bought the goods and services, and they were selling to it at a very high cost. You will also come to know about the changes British rule brought about in values and taste, customs and practices. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to these kinds of political, economic, social and cultural changes, we refer to the process as colonization. So here we can see there is a colonization, and here what happens, British rule is going on, the values are changing, the tastes are changing, the customs and practices, means the collection of revenue, the collection of tax from the government is continuously changing. They were imposing very high tax on us. They were collecting high revenues for us. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to these kinds of political, economic, social and cultural changes, we refer to the process as colonization. Please underline it. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to these kinds of political, economic, social and cultural changes, we refer to the process as colonization. So what is a colonization? This is the answer. Children, please underline it. You will, however, find that all classes and groups did not experience these changes in the same way. That is why this book is called Our Past in the plural. So every class, every group was not experiencing the same changes. There were changes. For a rich class, they were happy, but the poor class and middle class people were suffering. So they have used the plural, our past. In the next class, let us go for the things. How do we know? What do we know? How the things were and what was happening. All these things we will know. But let me give you a very small explanation about how do we know. How we come to know about our past records. Administration produce records. One important source is the official records of the British administration. The British believed that the act of writing was important. Every instruction, plan, policy, decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. Once this was done, things could be properly studied and debated. So what happened? There were official records regarding how the things should be done. Every instruction, every policy, every plan, every decision, every agreement, every investigation was clearly written up. Everything was done in a systematic manner during the British government. The British also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be clearly preserved, so they set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions. See that? So only we say that Britishers are very wise, right? They are very intelligent people. See here, not only they kept the records safe, not only they made plan, policies, decision, agreement, investigation, clearly they have made it written up and they preserved them very carefully. They build up the record rooms to keep all these important document, letters, everything. As in your home, when your papa brings the money and gives it to your mom, what she will do? Immediately she will remove the locker, she will remove the almirah key and she will remove the locker key, and in that locker she keeps all the money safe in that. Like that, these Britishers, what they did, they kept the documents, they kept the records, everything preserved in the record rooms. The village Tahsildar's office, the collectorate, the commissioner's office, the provincial secretariats, the law courts all had their record rooms. So all these were having the record rooms. Specialized institutions like archives and museums also established to preserve the important records. So archives were there, museums were there, these were all the law courts were there, secretariats were there, commissioner's office was there, collectorate were there. They were all preserving the records of the village, records of the town, records of the city. In early of the years of the 19th century, these documents were carefully copied out and beautifully written by calligraphists. Calligraphists means the person who is very good in writing. They have brought them and they had made in the 19th century to copy all the records and beautifully write them, so that by the middle of the 19th century, with the spread of printing, multiple copies of these records were printed as proceedings of each government department. So the calligraphists means the persons who are expert in writing, they were writing all the records. So by that what happened, they preserved all the documents, all the records in the proper manner, so that it is not lost or it is not destroyed. They had kept all the informations very safe, like how you keep your money safe, like that the Britishers had kept all their records, all the documents in a safe room called the record room. Okay children, surveys become important. In the next class I am taking it. Okay, thank you.